On my first playthrough of Cyberpunk 2077, I drove everywhere. Whether my mission objective was out in the barren wastes of Sierra Sonora or just down the block in Watson, I was usually getting there on between 2 and 4 wheels. With my entire roster of vehicles just a click away, why not, right? I generally like driving in games, and the cars in Cyberpunk are the perfect blend of retro 80s and futuristic design language. They kind of handle like shit, but I'm honestly a fan of that. I'd much rather slide around every corner anyway. From behind the windshield or bumper, Night City looks a lot like other North American cities. Huge multi-lane boulevards, twisting and interlacing freeway on-ramps and overpasses blocking out the sun. Traffic as far as the eye can see, moving forward inch by inch. There are 0 bike lanes or bikers, apparently an extinct species in NC, along with all the birds and dogs.
Do you see it? That cat?
Pedestrians have to scamper across wide intersections to avoid being run down by cars turning right on red. Add to that the occasional car wreck or gunfight spilling over onto the sidewalk, and it's not looking great for Night City's urbanist credentials. That's what I thought, until I reinstalled the game after the recent 2.0 update, and decided to approach this playthrough a little differently. The cars with machine guns are fun and all, but I was going to get out of my metal box and onto the streets. Instead of calling my car to take me a block away, I would walk. I'd take my time, look around, and see if there was a side of Night City that could only be found at walking speed. It turns out there's an incredible amount of public space reserved for people instead of cars in Night City. From stairways that shorten walking distances between blocks, to side streets that are narrow and slow traffic, parks and plazas winding through the concrete jungle, places for people to sit, eat, and relax. There's food vendors, convenience stores, and so many vending machines on every block in the denser parts of town. Japantown would probably get a 100 out of 100 on its walk score, for a couple reasons. The verticality of Night City ends up being its biggest boon to walkability too. There are night markets buried deep below grade, offering a refuge from the traffic above. There's also pedestrian plazas sitting high above the city, just high enough to feel removed from the gridlock below. In the tight spaces between buildings, there are these moody, relaxing spots to hang out in between shifts at the murder factory. And many of these places I had never seen on my first playthrough, because I hadn't taken much time to explore on foot. Of course, the entire city isn't like this. Rancho Coronado seems to be the last holdout of suburban sprawl in the city, with its out-of-place, single-family homes and grassy lawns. On the other side, even if Kabuki is technically walkable and free of cars, it's still a shanty town that doesn't seem particularly pleasant to live in. Night City is a fusion of traditional North American car culture and Japanese density, and there are some interesting details that make it into this mix. Like these yellow, tactile paving blocks lining the sidewalk in the most walkable parts of town, the type you'd see at intersections in the US and all along the sidewalks in Tokyo. They're called Tenji blocks, or Braille blocks, and they were invented by a Japanese man named Saiichi Miyake in 1965, after he saw a blind man with a cane almost get hit by a car near his home. The textured blocks allow the visually impaired to read the pavement with their feet or a cane, making it easier to navigate the streets and crossings of a dense city. And that's the type of thing that only a city who cares about its people would put the effort into implementing. Tenji blocks, curb cuts. Oh, no curb cuts, huh? Well, there's at least a myriad of pedestrian overpasses to avoid automobiles altogether. Even the metro system has pretty decent coverage. I wish we could use it in-game, but anyway. Night City is relatively welcoming to you if you're walking everywhere. It may be a little stinky, loud, and dangerous, but hey, if it means I get to have a cyberpunk 7-Eleven on every block, then I'd say it's worth it. Of course, this opinion is coming from someone born and raised in Southern California, one of the least walkable regions in the entire world, so what do I know? Let me know in the comments if you noticed any other urbanist details in Night City, or if you have any feedback on my editing and writing style. This is my first video, at least the first one I actually finished and published, but I hope to create more content like this, using games as a lens to think about wider topics I'm interested in. Thanks for watching.